My fellow Ambalanders, dear soldiers of the Ambazonian Revolution, fellow defense forces on ground zero, my fellow compatriots in the diaspora, brave patriot volunteers scattered and dotted in the detention centers of Cameroon. I would like us to begin as usual by observing a minute of silence on behalf of all those who've laid their lives so that Ambazonia shall yet be free. May the souls of our departed compatriots and comrades rest in perfect peace until we meet to part no more. My fellow countrymen and women, more than 130 years ago, our territory was under the British rule. The British governed us for close to 30 years. In 1916, the Germans ceded control of Ambazonia to be taken over by the British. All this time, those who colonized Ambazonia had executive power to govern us. They believe so strongly in their inherent right to govern Ambazonia that they set up institutions to reflect their own customs and tradition. The British remained in Ambazonia for so long that all of our own indigenous and customary rules and values were almost eliminated. They insisted in total control of our territory. When they moved us into Nigeria, we were again governed by a foreign dominion. After we withdrew from Nigeria and set up our own House of Assembly and our executive organ, our House of Chiefs, we governed ourselves for a short period of time. We exercised democratic rights. Our people had the opportunity to choose their government. We had a system of rule that reflected our own patterns of life. But the world insisted that Ambazonia must remain under colonial rule, that the only way we can survive as a people was to be bundled under another country. They mortgaged our sovereignty to Cameroon. From 1961, Cameroon took effective control of our homeland. They destroyed our political institutions. They destroyed our economic potentials. They destroyed our way of lives, moved into our own system, occupied us, instituted their rule, changed our customs, made laws that didn't reflect our own patterns of life. As Fonlane once said, anyone who occupies your homeland makes your laws determine your way of life. When we were asked to choose between Cameroon and Nigeria, Foncha batted for Cameroon. Endele batted for Nigeria. None of these patriots was able to stand to defend our own lives, like great Kuva Likenya did for the Bakwere people more than 100 years before, like the chiefs of Bafut did for the people of Bafut against the Germans. We had leaders who could not stand for us. We had leaders who could bat only for the occupier. We had leaders who were preferred by colonialists because they defended their interest. My fellow countrymen and women, we have been victims of the kind of leadership that have emerged from our homeland. People who have never stood for us, who have never defended us, who have never battled for us, who have never been determined to die for us, go to jail for us, to make sure we emerge as a separate people to govern ourselves. Beginning of the 90s, we had leaders who struggled so hard to govern from Yaoundé. We fought battles on the street to make Cameroon to understand that if you democratize the political space, meaningful coexistence could be accepted. They tortured our people, arrested others, deported Justice Nyon Wakai and hundreds of others to Yaoundé. We fought street battles from Victoria to Bamenda. But there was no one to stand for Ambazonia. We were all led to stand for Cameroon. We were all led to believe in one Cameroon. We were all led to believe that if we reform the Cameroon system, we Ambazonians will be able to live a self-fulfilling life as slaves under the masters. We fought so hard, and in 1993, we called for the all Anglophone conferences in 1993 and 94. We sent a catalog of grievances to Yaoundé to express our dismay and our disregard against the system that had been imposed in Ambazonia. We cataloged our grievances, political, economic, and social. And in 1994, we determined that never again shall we fight to be slaves under a political system that never recognized us. We went around our country to collect signatures to show the world that the majority of Ambazonians believe in a separate homeland. Yet then, we still had leaders who didn't have the guts to stand for us. We had leaders who professed in the afternoon that they were Ambazonians, but they were dining with the colonial masters in the night. We were betrayed by weak and meek leaders who never had the backbone to sacrifice, who never had the will to stand for us, to defend our own interests. They sold out. We were abandoned to be recaptured by the system. Our generation rose up and fought La République on the street. Hundreds of us were taken to jail. Hundreds were killed. Up till this moment, there are still people arrested in 1997 who are in jail. They told us that if we went for elections and we win, we'll be able to govern ourselves. We followed. We elected mayors that were governed by DOs. We elected mayors in urban councils that were governed by government delegates. Our votes didn't count where we had the right to vote. The majority of us never had the right to vote. Those who voted, their votes didn't count. We have been churned in the land of our birth. We've been deceived. who've been manipulated. And there has never been anyone to stake the Ambazonian case, to defend the Ambazonian interest, to stand for the Ambazonian people, to bat for our own interests. When the teachers rose up, when the lawyers rose up, like slaves, they still battled to reform the system. They still struggle to integrate within the system. While we call for a return to an independent homeland, the slave mentality still drove the majority of the leaders then to still believe that Cameroon was a place that could accommodate us. We said it was impossible, that there is no historical reference that we can show that there has been a coexistence between a Francophone dominating country and an Anglo-Saxon system. We showed patterns of discrimination, domination, willful extortion, murder. We explained ourselves to our own people why it was impossible for any coexistence with Cameroon. Those who went to discuss with Cameroon were all arrested and deported to Yaoundé. The Agwabalas and the others. Those who rose up on the street with their coffin were kidnapped, tortured, and deported to the capital of the occupier. They are still languishing in jail today. My fellow soldiers of the revolution, this time last year, when we rose up to say enough was enough, and that we had an inherent right and duty given to us by God, our Creator, to protect the lives of our people, to protect our territorial integrity, to defend ourselves against a marauding army that didn't respect our own existentiality. Some leaders still apologize to the system. They attacked us that we didn't have an army. They attacked the never again generation that they couldn't defend our own people. More than 365 days from October 1, 2017 till today, more than 35,000 Ambazonians are in arm's way defending their block, defending their villages, defending their hamlets, defending their cities. The never again generation showed us that if Kuva Likenye could withstand the Germans with 400 men on Mount Fako more than 200 years ago, then this generation is strong enough, powerful enough, well equipped intellectually and materially to defend the right of the Ambazonian people to govern themselves. A couple of weeks ago, they called for an election to legitimize the same rule that has occupied our homeland for more than 57 years. All through our coexistence with Cameroon, elections have been designed to legitimate an illegality, to deceive the international system that there is a rule of law, a democratic process, transparency, where the people could choose their leaders and bring them down. We've argued long enough that the rotating presidency within Cameroon does not respect any rule. We call on the Ambazonian people to engage in active boycott, to ensure that there are no elections within the territorial space of Ambazonia. You rose up like one determined people. You fought on the streets. You made sure there were no campaigns. You respected the call for the lockdown to make sure ballot boxes are not distributed within the territory of Ambazonia. You showed your bravery from Buea to Kwakwa. You rose up like one people to reclaim the right in your own homeland to determine the kind of government that will be instituted, the kind of government that will rule you, the kind of principles, the kind of body of rules that will be enacted to govern you. You challenge the occupation successfully from Batibo to Mbemi to Alabukam to Mbiame to Wum to We to Bu to Kwakwa. You defied the odds. You rejected an illegality that had prevailed in our homeland for 57 years. You successfully stopped the holding of an election in the country of your birth. You stood against all those puppet political leaders, whether from Ambazonia or from La Republique, who registered to be candidates. We lost brave Ambazonians on that day. On the streets of Bamenda, their bodies laid for the vultures. And as we were still contemplating how to move the stakes higher, leadership was still congratulating the same people that we had called our people to stand against. Leadership was still peddling puppeteering, lack of foresight, to understand there is no better slave master than all those who have stayed mute as our cities have been bombed, all those who by omission or commission have remained silent as our people have been murdered, all those who took part in one way or the other in an electoral charade to legitimize an occupation regime that has murdered our people, driven 200,000 into the bushes, more than 70,000 into Nigeria. Our collaborators in the death of our people, and the Ambazonian people will hold them responsible for the pain and the anguish. Fellow Ambazonians, you have a choice to make on which airline to fly to independence. You will make a choice whether to go by Amber Air or you have to go by Khmer. I know the majority of our people have made their choice. They have decided that there is no friend in Cameroon. There is no friend in Cameroon to bat for the Ambazonians. There is no friend in Cameroon to stake our claim to our homeland. All those who preach national unity, all those who preach one Cameroon, united Cameroon, are complicit to the murder, to the displacement, to the burning of villages. And we will hold them responsible now or in the future. My fellow citizens, a revolution is not a walk in the park. I understand the difficulties of the moment. I understand that sometimes you believe in the goodness and the kindness of the humankind. You believe that someone sitting in Cameroon will emerge one day to believe in the right of the Ambazonian people to govern themselves. I know you still believe in the twinkle of light at the end of the tunnel, that someday Mr. Buea or his associates will change their mind to believe that one day we have a right of a country of our own. That will not happen. I know the alternative is fighting. I know the alternative is defending your homeland. I know the alternative is dying. I know the alternative is determination and perseverance. Unfortunately, that is the only pathway to our freedom. Cameroon is a nation in decline. It's a country that is going to collapse very soon. And we must be prepared as a people. I want you to realize that in the past 365 days, we have imposed a higher cost on the occupation. We have made it very difficult for Cameroon to govern Ambazonia. We have made our homeland ungovernable. And I call on all those politicians in Cameroon to defend their own blocks, to make Cameroon ungovernable, for themselves, for their own children, for their own future. I call on the Cameroonians to rise up in the land of their own birth, defend their blocks, defend their villages, defend their hamlets. That freedom is not given on a platter of gold. That the electoral charade that Mr. Buea has organized for more than 25 years has never shifted power from one political system to the other. That Mr. Kamto should not focus on Ambazonia. We hold him and his other cohort responsible for the pain imposed on the Ambazonian people. And that if they are bold enough, strong enough, determined enough, they should defend their own blocks in the country of their birth. That is the way we have done for the past 1 year, to be able to take our struggle from the domestic realm to the international realm, where it is today being adjudicated in the halls of Congress, in the Bundestag, and Downing Street. Our shared determination against all odds, against a more powerful, well-equipped oppressor, has won us the admiration of thousands and millions of people across the globe. And Cameroonians can do this also, for their people, for their country, and for their homeland. My fellow soldiers of the revolution, we must be focused. I know when you are fighting in Bonge, or you are fighting in Kwakwa or Alabukam, you wonder how your effort in those blocks will give you independence. We have this well thought out. We have argued from the beginning that the primary aim of the block-by-block approach is to make sure we spread La République within the 43,000 square miles of our homeland, to make them fight in every village, spread them thin, weaken the foundation of their presence within Ambazonia. Make sure we bleed them in every hamlet, in every village. In doing so, we weaken their resolve within Ambazonia to continue to occupy our homeland. By increasing the cost of the occupation, we divert funds from social services, from the payment of the military, from the payment of civil servants, to the prosecution of an occupation that they cannot win. In that way, Cameroon will be unable to maintain its grip within our homeland. And it will be unable to maintain the political system in Cameroon. And at the end, it will have a choice to decide whether to maintain the occupation of Ambazonia or to survive within Cameroon. That is the essence of the block by block. We might win our independence without capturing our capital. That is how most independence struggles have been properly terminated. So if you are fighting in Bonge, you should know your effort in Bonge is having a ripple effect across the homeland. If you are fighting in Alabukam, by defending your block, by increasing the cost of the occupation within your block, it is going to have an overall effect on Cameroon's presence within our homeland. This is the most effective, cost-effective strategy that can lead us to independence at a lower cost. This revolution has been sponsored by the Ambazonian people. We have sustained the effort of this revolution. We have been the primary investors of our own liberation. And the essence is to make sure we become the sole owners of the outcome. In the coming weeks, we will be laying out a comprehensive economic package that will change the charity approach to sustaining this revolution into an investment approach. In that way, there will be accountability. In that way, there will be sustainability. In that way, you will be able to track your money from the time you make that investment to the time it gives you profit and gives you independence. We have developed an important system, a milestone in our revolution. And I know Ambazonians, you're going to welcome this new approach with open arms. And you are going to support it as you've supported the block-by-block approach to our liberation. It is the only way we can sustain ourselves to remove the den guns from the hands of our boys and replace them with high caliber machine guns that can defend the villages, that can defend the cities. We want to stop the system where you are going to donate 350 million ambas and you don't find where that money has been invested in. You cannot continue to put your money and you don't see the results in the field. Follow your money. The kind of system that we want to build is one where there is transparency and accountability. And I challenge all the leaders to open their bank accounts. Let every leader open their bank account from 2016 up till today for it to be reviewed how much you earn. Charity begins at home. I am prepared to open my bank account to make sure it can be looked into, so the Ambazonian people can know how much their leaders earn, whether they are corruptible or not. Fellow soldiers of the revolution, we have built a political system based on consent. That is the foundation upon which Ambazonia emerged in the late 50s. And I think the time has come for a political program to be laid out for Ambazonian leaders to be directly elected by the Ambazonian people. And in the coming months, a massive program will be laid out that will give you the opportunity to choose those you want to govern you, to choose the leaders you want to lead you. And you should have the democratic right and process to be able to bring down those leaders when you don't desire their action. That is the first premise upon which accountability can happen. Leaders have to be elected, whether within their own movements or within the general framework of our revolution. And I am sure we are up to the task in the 21st century to lay out a concise program that gives the Ambazonian people, either directly or indirectly, to be able to elect the leaders so they can have legitimacy in the face of the international system. That is going to happen soon, I can promise you. Fellow soldiers of the revolution, we also have to make ourselves a contender. We have fought a good war. Our soldiers on the ground have shown their determination under difficult circumstances. They have fought across the entire territory to be able to achieve the primary objective set forth in the beginning of our self-defense resistance, making Ambazonia ungovernable, increasing the cost of their occupation. The diaspora has also been able to internationalize our struggle, our campaign for a separate homeland. You have been able to take our struggle to the doorsteps, the corridors of powers across the globe. You have been able to show cause that you are a people. For us to be able to become a contender, we will be moving the resistance on the ground to phase 4. In phase 4, we will become a contender. In phase 4, we will be able to move the block by block one notch ahead to become more sophisticated. We have put these plans, these ideas to the commanders. And I can assure you, very soon, we're going to shift the balance of power in terms of territorial control, in terms of showing force on the ground in favor of the Ambazonian people. Once we do that, we will become a contender at the level of the international system. Countries will be able to stake the prestige and pride of their nation in the recognition of the new state of Ambazonia. Fellow soldiers of the Ambazonian Revolution, Let us be optimistic. Let us stay focused. Let us not be distracted by the political events happening in Cameroon. I am definitely very sure, as we predicted more than 2 years ago, Cameroon as a state is non-sustainable. Cameroon as a state is going to collapse. And we must get our acts together. In the coming days and weeks, thousands of Ambazonians who fled the homeland because of the lockdown might be returning to our villages, to our cities. I call on all the defense forces on the ground to ensure their security, to protect the Ambazonian people. The reason for which we fight, the reasons for which we bleed, is primarily to protect the Ambazonian people. And I condemn in the strongest terms the abductions, the extortions, the kidnapping for ransom that have been happening, either by Atanganji-sponsored forces or some fringe defense forces. Extortion, kidnapping, decapitation, torture, illegal deprivation of liberty are all acts we must condemn in the strongest of terms. We must conduct ourselves with integrity, respect for the dignity of the order. We must show that we will build an alternative system that is better than the one we are escaping from. We must show that those who are captured are detained humanely. We must show that we should not decapitate captured soldiers. We must show that we cannot terrorize our own people and pretend to want to become the liberators of our homeland. We are the primary guarantors of the security of the Ambazonian people. We are the primary protectors of the territorial integrity of Ambazonia. And we must uphold ourselves in the highest dignity to protect our people, to ensure they are safe in our villages and in our cities. Our primary base of support comes from the Ambazonian people. We must not lose sight of this reality. The only way a liberation struggle succeeds is when there is collaboration between the fighters and the people. And for that collaboration to be healthy and to happen, we must respect our people, we must protect our people, and we must ensure that we guarantee their safety in the face of the attack from the enemy. Fellow citizens, fellow soldiers of the revolution, Ambazonia is a free homeland. We are mentally free today because we discarded the curriculum of education that we were intoxicated with. We are mentally free today because we learned our history. We adopted best practices. We showed restraint in the face of terror. We are mentally free today because we upheld the basic principles that should guarantee the freedom of every people from colonial occupation and domination. Some pockets of our homeland are still under occupation. Our brave soldiers will free these pockets still occupied by Cameroon, so that we have the unique opportunity in the land of our birth to institute a system of rule, an economic philosophy that strengthens the local to make sure we can be able to compete with the global, to build an educational system that empowers the Ambazonian people, that gives them an education that makes them an asset to their homeland rather than a liability, and to institute a political system that is transparent, a system upon which people can be elected based on the content of their character, on their program that they have laid. That is the kind of system we are fighting for. That is the kind of system that this generation is going to bequeath to the next generation. You fought a good fight. from the diaspora right to the homeland. We've humbled Cameroon. We've delegitimized Cameroon's presence within our homeland. We've shown the international community that Ambazonia belongs to us, that we are the only people who can determine its future, who can write its story, who can catalog its history, its experiences, and who can build its vision. It will never be the same again. We shall never return again to those dark days where our laws were made by foreigners. Our curriculum of education was drafted by foreigners for the interests of foreigners. We will never return again to those days when we were taught to believe in the flag of others, sing their anthem, worship their football. We are a free people. We must defend our freedom. We must defend our right to exist in the land of our birth based on our own customs. We must coexist. We must collaborate. We must tolerate. We must compromise so that we will build a system based on intrinsic values of tolerance, healthy competition that will develop an economy that will benefit the Ambazonian people. Mamia P didn't die in vain. Mancho Bibi Sindango, Numvi Walters, Tatingo and others are not languishing in jail in vain. Genesis didn't die in Bamenda in vain. All those who've lost their lives in Ekona today didn't die in vain. All those murdered in Bafut gave their lives so that Ambazonia shall yet be free. God bless you all.